Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're cutting straight to the chase on AI coding assistants.
Yeah, they're everywhere now.
Exactly. So if you write code, hobbyist, big company, whatever, you've probably heard about them, maybe even used one.
For sure.
Our mission today is pretty simple. Cut through the noise. We're looking at a recent ranking, focusing on what makes these top tools tick.
Right, looking at things like actual coding skill, understanding context, how they plug into your tool.
Not IDE integration, yeah.
Yeah.
And also enterprise stuff, open source options, those 5 key areas.
It's easy to get overloaded with info, so hopefully we can offer some clarity.
Let's do it. So the ranking picks GitHub Copilot as like the top choice for most developers. Why is that?
Well, Copilot hits a sweet spot. Its integration, especially within tools like VS Code, it's just very smooth. You type, and suggestions just appear. It often feels like it knows what you're about to write. Plus, it's been trained on, a massive amount of code because so many people use it.
Okay, that seamless feel sounds like a huge plus. But it is closed source, needs an internet connection, right? Are those big hurdles?
They can be. Depends on what you need. If you absolutely need offline capability or you have super strict data privacy rules or want to tweak the model yourself,
Then maybe not Copilot.
then you might look elsewhere, yeah. Those are definitely things to weigh up.
Gotcha. The ranking also talked about OpenAI Codex, but it's not really a standalone product you grab.
Right. Think of Codex more as the powerful engine behind a lot of this stuff, including Copilot. It's the core tech.
Ah, okay, the intelligence layer.
Exactly. It shows what's possible, even if you're not interacting with Codex directly by name. It handles multiple languages really well.
So what about when you're dealing with like really massive, complex code bases? Any tool specifically good for that?
That's where Claude from Anthropic gets mentioned. Its standout feature is this huge context window.
How huge are we talking?
Like, it can process over 100,000 tokens of context. So basically, you can look at a very large chunk of your project at once.
Okay, and what does that help with?
It's great for understanding complex code, explaining what different parts do, maybe even helping generate documentation for these big systems. It reads and digests large amounts of code well.
That sounds incredibly useful for, navigating those monsters. But the ranking mentioned downsides, like no native IDE integration.
Exactly. And it might be a bit slower if you're asking it to generate large amounts of new code compared to understanding existing code. So great for analysis, maybe less fluid for rapid coding itself.
Makes sense. Okay, moving on. Cloud-specific tools. Amazon Code Whisperer came up.
Yeah, Code Whisperer's strength is really clear if you're deep in the AWS world.
Oh, so?
It ties in directly with AWS services. It can do things like security scans relevant to AWS, offer suggestions optimized for their APIs. It's very ecosystem-focused.
So if you live and breathe AWS, it's a strong contender.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But outside of that specific AWS context, its general coding abilities might feel a bit more limited compared to, say, Copilot.
Right. What about the open source crowd? What are the main options there?
The big names highlighted are Meta's Code Llama and StarCoder. These give you flexibility.
Flexibility meaning?
Meaning you can customize them, host them yourself, really control the environment. That appeals to a lot of people and organizations.
But are they just plug and play?
Not quite as much. They generally need more technical setup. Code Llama seems to have built a bigger community faster. StarCoder is solid, but maybe a step behind the very top closed source ones in, like raw performance, and has a smaller user base for now.
Okay. And for people really focused on privacy, maybe needing something entirely local, on-premise, Tab9 was mentioned.
That's Tab9 specialty. If keeping your code and data completely within your own network is the #1 priority, it's designed for that. You can run it locally.
And the trade-off?
The trade-off is generally in the sophistication of its suggestions and maybe its reasoning capabilities.
Yeah.
It's good, but maybe not quite at the level of the cloud-based giants for complex tasks.
Understood. And finally, for learners, Replit Ghostwriter.
Yeah, that one's positioned nicely for beginners, especially within the Replit online IDE. It's user-friendly, good for educational settings.
But probably not for, like, big professional team projects outside Replit.
Probably not its main focus, no. It's tailored for that Replit environment.
Okay, wow. So let's try to quickly recap based on use case. For most developers,
GitHub Copilot seems to be the go-to starting point according to this ranking.
the raw engine power underneath.
That's Codex territory.
Reading and understanding really big projects.
Claude, with that big context window.
Heavy AWS users.
Amazon Code Whisperer fits right in.
If you want open source,
Code Llama, maybe Start Coder, depending on your needs and setup tolerance.
Super privacy-focused, local deployment,
Tabbeam.
and folks just starting out, especially in Replit.
Replit Ghostwriter.
That lines up well with the ranking's conclusions.
Yeah, it really highlights that the best tool isn't universal. It truly depends on your situation.
Absolutely. You need to think about, your current tools, how big your projects are, whether open source matters to you, those privacy needs we talked about, which tool strengths match what you do day to day.
Exactly.
And maybe a final thought to leave folks with. As these tools get even better and more integrated, how fundamentally might software development itself change? What does being a developer even look like in 5 or 10 years? Something to chew on. Thanks for digging into this with us.